Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Neil Pickup, the fat lad, with you here in the mother fluffing house. And I'm back with my mate, the Haleraiser, Geoff Hale. Part number 2, it is on. Dude, you look so similar. It's as though we haven't moved at all.
That's right.
Mate, we're going to get straight back in where we left off. Part number 2, we were just getting warmed up. We were starting to... and for those of you out there that didn't see part number 1, get your ass back there, check it out. I'll put the link in the description. Do it. Now then, the Haleraiser. We just got into talking about how you created this character, what he means to you, what purpose he served for you. Quite educational for me, never mind the other people out there, and the origins of the Hellraiser, where it came from. You, obviously... an old lady's comment, sliding doors. She makes a comment about your dad being a Hellraiser, and the next thing, boom, it's born. So, when you, I want to sort of go back to after your first ever outing. Was the first outing of the Hellraiser of that nature, Arm Wars Manchester? Was that the first time you'd really put him down on people?
It really was. I mean, the aggression behind the Hellraiser, the explosiveness, the animosity that the Hellraiser brought to the table. That had come out in other matches prior to that, but never the true Hellraiser version that we saw at Arm Wars in Manchester in 2010.
And how did you feel? I mean, obviously you got a mega reaction. The people at the Trafford loved it, didn't they?
I mean, it was awesome. I mean, you know, people were wanting my autograph. You know, everybody was. I mean, even the arm wrestlers that I was competing against enjoyed the character after the fact, of course.
Yeah.
And I tried to make it real clear to everybody that was involved with Arm Wars that, you know, this is a character. I'm not going up there to attack you on a personal level. I'm going up there for entertainment value and to have fun. And so I'm gonna be wild. I'm gonna be a maniac, and I'm gonna try to break you down mentally. Not only that, but physically. So the guys that I was competing against, they recognized that, and they knew that there was a mutual respect between us. I don't have any bad blood with anybody. I mean, so...
I think that's a really important point to make here. I mean, it's all right talking about it, but you were probably the most popular member of the entire Arm Wars roster. I mean, everywhere we went, you got on with everyone. You had so many friends. Everybody loved you. You get negativity online around the Hellraiser character, saying that you know people don't like it or upsets them, annoys them, that it's not natural to you. Yeah. It never seemed forced to me. It never seemed like it was difficult. It always seemed really easy. And I suppose the proof of the pudding's in the eating. And all the guys that were there, that were living it with you, they didn't have a problem with the Hellraiser. They didn't have a problem with you. Yeah. You never really, in how many years were we doing it? Sort of 11 years or so. I never really saw any problem with the Hellraiser.
No, I mean, I didn't have any problem with anybody in the arm wrestling community. I don't know. I mean, I've seen some pretty gnarly comments online, obviously, and I think there were some guys that may have been involved with Arm Wars that didn't like me or questioned my tactics. But I think at the end of the day, they eventually all, I think everybody, you know, recognized that I'm not a bad guy. You know, I'm actually a really nice, respectful guy. But, you know, when we're on the table, you know, it's game time. Mm-hmm. So get ready, because I'm bringing the razor with me. And, you know, you better be ready to face not only, you know, my physical ability, but my mental ability as well.
What was the sort of reaction back in the States? Because you went through a period of sort of like finding out whether you should be Geoff Hale at tournaments or finding out whether you should be the Haleraiser in tournaments. Was there like a pressure to bring him out all over the place?
There was, and I honestly, there's one event really sticks out to me the most, and that's 2012 Nationals in Reno, where Corey Miller and I were in the finals together, and him in the prelims, right-handed, and then he came back and ended up beating me twice in the finals. Well, in the finals, Robert Drink had asked me to bring the Hellraiser out. He said that, you know, they had paying fans, people were paying to come in and watch the matches, and he really wanted to put on a show. And so he'd asked me as a favor to pull a Hellraiser out for the finals to add some entertainment value to the scene. And so I did that, and you know, no one knew I was going to do that except for Robert and probably Bill. So I don't think Corey Miller was expecting that. And when I brought him out, it pissed a lot of people off. I mean, it really They thought I was disrespecting Corey. You know, they thought all this, me ignoring his handshake and stuff was all like out of, you know, anger that I'd lost the match and frustration. When really all it was me being the Hellraiser character and trying to raise the you know, the excitement in that arena. So, I remember there were some interviews of Corey after the fact where he was kind of disgusted by my character. Probably didn't even want to pull me again because of it. But we ended up becoming friends. I mean, there's no animosity between Corey and I. But yeah, I would say that the USA did not take too kindly to the Hellraiser initially.
So how did that make you feel? Did it bother you or not?
At the beginning, in the early stages of the character, it definitely bothered me to see my peers say bad things or to, you know, put me down, you know, say just to say that I'm you know, cringy and disgusting and they can't stand me. People are still saying these things. They don't bother me anymore, but initially they definitely did bother me. You know, I had to just kind of look past that fact and recognize that the majority of the people watching me arm wrestle enjoyed what I was doing. And most importantly, I enjoyed what I was doing. I was having fun.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what it was all about for me. It was more of a selfish matter. You know, the Hellraiser is very selfish. It's me just, you know, having fun up there on the table.
I mean, the biggest thing's got to be there. It must make you feel a little bit more confident that the ratings of the shows sort of prove the point, didn't they?
Yeah.
You know, they just did. I mean, if you're getting millions of viewers when you were on there and it's spiking every time you're in a show, that's clear. And these aren't necessarily, you know, there isn't that many hardcore arm wrestling fans out there. But I'll tell you this, there were enough people who were fans of the Hellraiser. They were tuning in, clearly tuning in. And the other thing is it would grow. So what we would see is they'd do measures of the show. So the show would be going at a level and it'd have a number of viewers. And then the half of the show, we used to do the Arm Wars events where there was a match and then a second match. And it'd be at a level. And then as that second match came on, it would build through the segment. Like really clear spiking build. So that must have been people going, dude, you got to check this out. But look at this. And then, you know, and we would see it, and it was consistent. And Eurosport would tell us that every time. They'd say, oh, when the Hellraiser's on, this thing builds, you know. It'll build through the segment. And that was, it's always something I remembered. And I always used to look, when I was presenting the shows, I used to look around the audience, and when you were doing your sort of stick, the funny stuff particularly, when you were wired up, but you were making it more funny, like I say, the evil knighthoods and things like that. And people would be out in the crowd, pissing themselves laughing. They were loving it, you know. That kind of thing was just good, and it really did lift the atmosphere in the building. You'd feel it come up. Yeah. And the other arm wrestlers sort of, at Arm Wars, they started buying into it. I mean, you bring glasses for guys. There's so many pictures kicking around with loads of people in the glasses. You remember how everybody would be like, you know. And that went on into the evening at the after shows, didn't it? People would roll in with the glasses on. It was good stuff.
You know, I have to say, you know, Michael Todd and Don Underwood at that very first Arm Wars event really kind of inspired me to bring some of that WWF at the time, WWE now, feel to the character. I was watching their, you know, pre-match interviews and seeing them talk. And, you know, Michael Todd his character is very natural. It's very much him. I mean, I think he got the most natural character out of everybody that was on that show. Whereas Don Underwood was a little more, you could tell it was 100% a character. It was not the true Don Underwood. It was a character. It was Hollywood, man. And having those guys, being able to watch those guys go first with their interviews and to see how they were doing it, that helped inspire me on what direction I should go with mine. So, I mean, I have to give props to both those guys for, you know, helping direct the Hellraiser into the way it ended up going. So.
How did you feel when you watched the shows back? Were you proud of them? Did you enjoy them? Did you find them entertaining? Was there any, you know, did you have reflective moments when you would read negative comments occasionally?
Oh, honestly, sometimes I would struggle to watch myself. I liked the arm wrestling side. I enjoyed watching the arm wrestling side of myself pull and stuff sometimes, but Typically I'd watch my stuff on mute sometimes because I know what I said. I know how crazy I got up there. I don't want to relive that again. So
was it because people had said negative things and you were tuning into that, or do you think you would have done anyway?
Maybe it was the negativity that I was feeling from part of the community that was making me feel insecure about it when I'd watch those videos. But I mean, most of the people that I talked to, they only had good things to say, and they usually really enjoyed those shows. So there was nothing to be embarrassed about. I think I read into some of the people that maybe I thought were inspirations didn't like what I was doing. That hurt. Sure.
Well, it's interesting. I always analyse it, and I wonder. I think the polarizing thing is a good thing. If people are tuning in because they hate your ass, great. Or because it doesn't matter. What they want to see you get your ass kicked, or they want to see you win, and either one's a good thing. But one thing I will say, you'd get the negative comments, and there were some. The ones who were negative were like really negative, but there weren't so many. There was not a vast majority of those. What I did used to get was we'd receive a great deal of emails, messages, fan mail, things like that had come through to the organisation and to Eurosport. And that was all positive. And it was all asking when you'd be back on.
Yeah.
When's the Hellraiser back on? And it was never Geoff Hale. When's the Hellraiser back on? Is what they would say. That was the thing. When is he back on? And the other thing that I thought was really good about that, a lot of it was from young kids and stuff. You were getting a lot of kids, teenage boys they loved it. They loved it. And that I thought was possibly the most positive thing that we could ever get. If you're buying that young audience in, Yeah,
that's the most important audience, really, because that's the future of the sport, are the young people, young athletes. So if you can inspire them to get involved in the sport, then the sport's gonna, it's gonna grow.
What are your sort of favourite characters that you watch? Are they people like the Hellraiser? Do you like WWE? Do you like any of the characters in there?
Yeah, I grew up watching some of the WWE stuff, and obviously my favorite was Ultimate Warrior. Yeah, he didn't have a lot of lines because he was more of this caveman, animal beast on in the ring, and I liked that. I liked the shaking of the ropes and all his stomping around. I loved that. I loved the screaming and the yelling, and plus he looked like a freaking killer.
Yeah, he really did.
That, and of course I also liked in the NWO days with Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Where he played kind of a bad guy. I liked that when they were talking shit and kind of being more bad guys than good guys because before Hulk Hogan was always the good guy, and now we got to see kind of the dark side of him. And that was pretty cool. I liked that as well as when I was growing up.
What about your family, mate? What about your mum and stuff? Because sometimes you'd go quite raw. In the early days of the Hellraiser, you'd be MFing and what did your mum think about that? Did she watch any of those shows and give you some stick?
She did watch some of the shows. She actually came to one eventually. She came to one of the Vegas events. One of the Sin City events. But, no, I don't think she's ever really been a big fan of arm wrestling. Unfortunately, arm wrestling has kind of at least it used to always have a bad stereotype around it about being a barroom sport.
Yep.
Kind of a redneck, brawling, just not a respectful sport, I guess you would say. Not a recognized sport like football, basketball, baseball kind of thing. So she's never really been a big fan of it, but she found the character, I think she found it entertaining.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say that Mom's probably not the biggest fan of arm wrestling. She supports me in every aspect of the sport, but yeah, she just thought, it's my son being crazy.
Were there any particular comments that you had from any individuals that really bothered you, and because of who it was? Was it, and if so, who was that? Is there any arm wrestler that you've been a little bit gutted that somebody didn't like it because you were a fan of theirs, or?
There was, I don't know if you remember, Neil, but I had asked you, I think it was when one of the Olympics was coming up. The Olympics was doing something where you could submit a video of you playing your sport, and I had this arm wrestling video made for me by one of my buddies, and I remember seeing the comments on the Olympic page underneath that video. And I don't know if this was for sure the guy. It was Steve Gerlu.
Oh, okay.
He said, like, this is the worst representation of arm wrestling. This guy does not represent our sport, something like that. It was basically just saying that I'm a bad representation of the sport of arm wrestling, and I should not be trying to, impress the Olympics. I don't know if it was him. That's what the username was, and all I could do was assume that it was him. And so that really hurt my feelings because I'd met Steve and I really liked him, and I thought we were friends, and to see that kind of comment, it really gutted me. Now, I don't know if that was really him on there saying those things, and I've never had any beef with Steve at all, even to now. I mean, even last time I even saw him, we were very nice and friendly with one another. So I don't know if that was him. All I could do was assume it was him because it was his name on the username. Yeah. And that hurt my feelings a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine it would, mate. When it's somebody that you hold in high regard.
Dude, he was one of the first guys that I saw on an international basis, promoting arm wrestling. I remember it was one of those videos, one of those arm wrestling videos that got like over 100,000 views at that point in time that was just killing it. And it was him like going to his club and stuff and showing him trends. And I remember he was I thought he was very inspirational. So yeah, to me, a big name international puller to say those things about me like he did, or like I thought he did, it really hurt.
You know what? Fuck him. Fuck you, Steve Curlew. Anyway, joking aside, I wanted to dig into sort of a few of the closer to home elements now, and I want to start with arm wrestling, mate. I want to start with the guys who you like and who you've been most impressed with. And we're going to start closer to home in North America. I want to get sort of a few names from you of North American arm wrestlers who are inspirational or who you really like. Who are your favourites, mate? Who the Hellraiser's hit list?
I mean, I think number one on that list is Cobra Rhodes. I just always liked his style of pulling. I always felt like on the table, the Cobra character was very inspirational. He was aggressive. He was mean. He had that tongue sticking out like he was going to fucking bite your ass. I mean, he to me was, I just love watching Cobra pull. I actually had the opportunity to pull him in 2013 at the CrossFit Games. And I don't know what happened at that event. He busted my ass at that event. He was a beast. And, I wanted to win that match so bad. I wasn't ready for Cobra. I wasn't ready for that level of expertise on the table. I just wasn't. I think I came in a little overtrained. I think physically I was definitely strong enough to win that match, but mentally, I could not overcome the Cobra. The venom poisoned my ass. The first hit on the table, the first go, I was poisoned, and I was done. He had my ass. And I look back on that match, and I was honored to pull him. He's a friend. He's a good friend of mine. I talk to Cobra every once in a while, still to this day. But I really, like a lot of arm wrestlers in this world, would love to get a win on Cobra Rhodes. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but definitely he's probably the most inspirational, famous arm wrestler that I look up to in the USA is definitely Cobra Rhodes.
Let's have a look at some more, mate. Who else is? What about if we take it out of the lightweight division?
Out of the lightweight division. I like the lightweight division.
Well, let's get. Yeah, hey, it's your show. Let's stick with lightweight. Who are you guys in the lightweight? See if there's guys you really want to mention. Let's get them out there.
No, I say that because I've never had the aspiration to be the best arm wrestler in the world. Never had it. So I never really looked up to the bigger guys, the stronger guys. Obviously, Michael Todd was one of the guys I used as inspiration. So I just liked the fact that he could pull from any angle, and his level of confidence, his level of desire to win on the table was very inspirational. And he looked cool. So, obviously, for the big guys, Michael Todd's probably the number one guy on there. Of course, I've got to mention John Brzezinski because, obviously being the greatest of all time, when you watch him pull, it's pretty fascinating. The guy's incredible. So, of course, I draw inspiration from that. I can say this, though. Probably my favorite arm wrestler, when I got into the sport of arm wrestling, my favorite arm wrestler was Travis Bajan. 100%, I was all in Travis Bajan. He was my favorite guy, number one all time. And then I met him. And let's just say it changed kind of quickly. I don't dislike Travis. But,
awesome.
You know, I looked up to him as a athlete getting into the sport. But once I met him, he was no longer an inspiration for me to be the best. So, I mean, that's just me being honest. I mean, yeah, he just was, I don't know. I think he's probably a good guy at the heart of things, but the version that I met for the first time really, you know, knocked me off the Travis bandwagon for sure.
A little bit like inaccessible. He was more sort of aloof, a little bit.
Honestly, he was more sketchy than I expected.
Mm.
I think that's the best way to describe him. Maybe a little dishonest,
okay.
And I didn't like that. You know, for me, honesty and loyalty and respect have always been really important to me. Just as a normal person walking around town, and I lost that. I lost those ideas when I met Travis. He wasn't that kind of person to me. So I stopped being a fan for the most part. I still love his arm wrestling. I mean, he's still one of the most exciting guys to watch arm wrestle. I've gotten inspiration from him, the way he talks shit. I think he's a phenomenal athlete, a great arm wrestler, but maybe not the greatest person to look up to in this world. It's probably what I'd have to say. And I'm not trying to disrespect him. I don't just, like I said, I do not dislike Travis, but he just is not. He's not my inspiration for the sport.
And what about from the Arm Wars days, mate? Let's look at the Arm Wars days a little bit. You met a lot of international arm wrestlers. You competed alongside, male and female. Who were your favourites? Who were your favourite Arm Wars roster athletes and why?
Probably my number one is Freddie Gunnarsson, honestly. And maybe not. Guys these days probably don't know who Freddie is, but man, Freddie was a beast, dude. And he didn't look like it, which is one of the things I liked about him, is that he didn't have that stereotypical arm wrestler body where, you know, you got these big muscles and stuff, and, you know, you're all, you know, the upper body's huge, lower body's tiny kind of thing.
Yeah.
He was very proportional and extremely strong. I mean, he was fucking strong. And I liked that, you know, and he was a stone cold killer. He didn't have any gimmicks. He didn't have to say anything for you to know that he was a badass. He just had it. Right. I mean, it was an aura around him that just said, "Hey, I'm a stone cold killer," and I liked that.
You had some great matches as well, didn't you?
Oh, we had some horrific matches, and it was.
Did he always 3 twice?
Ready.
Was it twice? You drew 3-3 or what?
It was
twice.
Yeah, it was Manchester and then once in Germany.
God damn yeah! And they were so. I think the Manchester one was stupid entertaining. It was like ridiculous.
It was.
There was sometimes you get a 3-3 draw and it's kind of almost looks like there's a script to it. You know, oh, this guy's going to win if he gets that move, but if this guy gets that move, he's going to. That one was all over the charts. It was like, oh, you both won in different positions, and it was very intense, very high velocity match. A lot of energy in there.
There was a great desire to win on both sides of that table, and I think it really showed in those two matches.
And confidence, I think, as well. I think a match, probably in any sport, I think a match is made better if both camps really think they're going to win, you know. And the Swedes they were absolutely adamant that he was going to kick your ass. Yeah. And obviously yourself and the Bam brothers were the same way the other way. You were like, oh, fucking show this dude something. And you could feel it. It was very intense that day. Really intense. Good times, mate. Any others from the Arm Wars roster that you rated?
Yeah, definitely Frodo Haugland. I think for me, Froda also had a presence on the table that you didn't see off the table. Off the table, he's very quiet, very nice, very nice. I mean, one of the nicest arm wrestlers I've ever met in my life. Super genuine guy. On the table, when he started to smile, you knew it was fucking on. Like, you were in trouble if he started smiling and laughing. You were in trouble. And he also was like Michael Todd in the sense that he pulled from some crazy positions. Oh. And he had some very exciting matches. And so I loved watching Froda pull. I mean, he was definitely one of my top guys as well.
And what about matches themselves, mate? I want to first of all go to matches that you were involved in. You've pulled so many Arm Wars super matches, such an extensive catalogue of matches.
Yeah.
What are the matches that stand out to you for whatever reason? What are your favourite matches? If you had to encapsulate a favourite, could you do that?
My favourite match, it's got to be the last time I pulled Freddie, because I beat him 6-0. And I trained so hard for that match. We'd had such wars that the inspiration to go in there and beat him good was there. I just wanted that match really, really bad. So that was definitely my favorite match that I won. But when I'm thinking about like the first match that comes to mind, it's definitely the Joseph LeVay match. That's the one that I think is most talked about still to this day. And, that was a very hard match. And I underestimated Joseph and his explosiveness. And it cost me a 6-0 loss. That was I remember after that match, I was so shocked that I'd lost 6-0. So shocked that I couldn't even get one win on the guy. I was furious. I honestly had a little bit of I hate to say it, but a little bit of a poor sport attitude at the end of that match. I was so mad that I lost that match and it couldn't do anything with him that I blew up. And, that wasn't fair to Joseph. And, he didn't care anyways. He's a great guy. He's a super nice guy. We've been friends. I think I ended up buying him a beer or dinner after that match or at a different Arm Wars event, to kind of say that I'm sorry for getting all pissed off at the end of that match. I like Joseph LeVay, and he's a hell of an arm wrestler. I did not show up that day prepared to face an explosive, bad dude. I mean, he that was the first time I took a loss at the Arm Wars, in the Arm Wars setting that just shocked my world. So that's the one that stands out the most for sure.
Now, what about matches from other people, mate? You obviously within Arm Wars there were some excellent matches that you observed, or were working corners really close to so go down. Do you have any sort of stories or background on any of those that stand out, or which was the most entertaining or emotional that you recall? Because there's been some moments.
The first one that comes to mind is probably Devin and Michael's match in Manchester. Ted Wilson and I were in Michael's corner, and I knew Michael well enough at that time that once he kind of had his mindset, he wasn't going to listen to you, kind of deal. Once he knew what he needed to do, he was going to do it, whether you said it or not. And I remember Ted and I were trying to get him into a different mindset, trying to change his game plan, and he just wasn't having it. He was getting emotional because he was in the match of his life. I mean, it was going down to the last match pretty much. I mean,
yeah.
And I knew that Michael wanted to win that match really, really bad. And I could see the emotion starting to pour out in our corner in between rounds. And unfortunately for him, he lost that match. But I think that loss drove him to come back and get wins on Devin in the future. So, but that was one of the ones where I remember being in the corner and not being able to get my point through. Ted, we're just talking to air basically. This guy, he was very focused. And he was very sure of himself. He wasn't gonna listen to what we had to say, and that really stands out. But Michael, for me, I always looked at him in the Arm War setting as he was the heavyweight number one, and I was lightweight number one, and we were on a team. I always felt we were a team together. We travel together, come home together, compete together. I always felt like we were just like a tag team from WWF or WWE or whatever. You know, I always felt like that. And when Arm Wars when Arm Wars ended and we started to get into like the UAL stuff and the WAL stuff, I really wanted to keep that going on. And I think Michael did too, because there was a level of camaraderie there that I think helped us both compete at a higher level when we were in each other's corners. I mean, having that confidence from a friend like that really, really helped. I really missed that after the Arm Wars. And Michael and I haven't really got to, you know, be that kind of team again since that point in time. So I miss those times.
Yeah, so
a wonderful experience.
It's sort of like the wingman effect. Yeah, I understand, mate. Now let's move on from the Arm Wars era, as it was. The next step. Yeah. It was sort of the move for you was really UAL, was where we next saw you emerge. How'd that come about, mate?
Just as I was getting more popular in Europe, I was getting more popular in the States, and I was one of the few guys at that time, especially the lightweight guys, that could put on a show. That could, win or lose, it didn't matter. I could still put on a show. I could still bring some excitement to the table. And so I was gaining popularity in the U.S. from that. And the UAL was interested in having me do. I think I did 2 events with them, and they were both against Jake Smith. I lost the first one against him, and then I came back and beat him in the second one. But those were a lot of fun. I had a good time, and they were trying to get me to come on, you know, to be a contracted UAL athlete, and I never could pull the trigger. You know, at that time, because the leagues were all just kind of in the beginning stages, they had these really gnarly contracts that just, you basically lost everything that you owned. You gave up everything to be a part of them, and I didn't want to do that. I came from an Arm Wars experience where I didn't have to give up anything. You gave me so much freedom. You gave all the athletes so much freedom. You understood, Neil, that if you help promote the athletes, it's only going to make Arm Wars that much bigger and greater. And I think all the other leagues that came after Arm Wars have really struggled to understand that. The WAL is finally understanding that, but even when I started getting involved in WAL, they were all about, it's the league. WAL, they didn't give a shit about the athletes. Now they care about the athletes because they understand that that's how you grow the league. It's the faces of the league that make the league popular, not the league itself. I think it's the same for all, you know, the NBA, the MLB, the NFL. It's the characters, it's the athletes that really promote the league to make it what it is, you know, to make it as big as it is. And you understood that as an Arm Wars, as the owner and operator of Arm Wars. You understood that. You gave us a lot of freedom as the athletes. You helped us with sponsorships. You helped us with, promoting our characters. And I can't thank you enough for that, because it helped me over here in the U.S. with other leagues. And I came across other opportunities. I mean, I had Fat Grips as a sponsor for probably 5 or 6 years. I think for 5 or 6 years, I did not pay to go to one single event. They were a wonderful, teammate to Team Hellfire and the Hellraiser. They helped me out in a lot of ways. X Endurance, which Michael Todd helped me get involved with, they helped me out for a couple of years. They were wonderful. I mean, it's been a really great ride so far, and I want to see the WAL pick up where Arm Wars left off, and I just haven't felt that yet. I really haven't. It doesn't feel the same as Arm Wars did. Arm Wars felt natural. It felt genuine. It felt free. It felt. I mean, I think it was the dream of any professional athlete to be involved with Arm Wars. It was the ultimate level.
Now, when you sort of stopped competing in Arm Wars and you didn't really break in with the UAL or go down that route as heavily or as committed as you had done with Arm Wars, we started to see an affinity with you in certain events, and you seem to be focusing more back onto main draw competition, mate. That was where. Was that a hard transition to make? I wanted to sort of get your opinions on the whole main draw versus super match thing. Is it something that you're very conscious of, or not so much?
No, it was really hard to get back into tournaments because the way you train for a super match is so different. And with super matches, especially 6-round super matches, you have a lot of freedom to make mistakes. You don't have to be on point every match. You can make a mistake here, make a mistake there, You can end up winning. You can end up tying that match 3-3, and you go home feeling still good about yourself, still confident that you're one of the best. But in the main draw tournaments, you make one mistake and you're on the B side, and next thing you know, you're in the struggle for your life to get back to the top of the podium. So it was a real hard struggle getting back to the tournament draw. I did not understand how to basically retrain myself in the gym and on the practice table to be a better tournament puller. And that's basically what I've been doing since the end of Arm Wars, has been trying to become a better tournament puller. And it's been tough.
Now, the Arnold Classic always seems to have had a special place in your mind, and you have an affinity with that event. We've seen you pop up there a number of times. You've had some great wins there. Some excellent outings. You've had some crushing disappointment there. Why the Arnold, mate? Was it just that you felt it attracted a higher level of competition, or did you like the event itself and the fact that it was bigger than just the arm wrestling show? What was the appeal for you?
Yeah, I've always performed at my best when I'm inspired, when I'm having fun, and when I'm excited about something. And for me, the Arnold Classic always represented to me as one of the best, if not the best, international event in the U.S. And not that it always brought the best competition in the world, but to me it was we all had the same shirt on. We were all on the big stage. They had screens on either side. You had a pretty decent crowd. You had all the best guys in the fitness world there watching and competing next to you. So it felt like a Super Bowl for arm wrestling. It felt like it felt professional. That's what it felt like to me. It really made me feel like a professional athlete going there and representing, my team and representing the U.S. or whatever. So I think that's why it attracted me the most, is that it just was to me, that was how I wanted arm wrestling to be viewed by my peers, by my friends, by my family, is on the big stage with a big crowd, not in a bar, not in the back of a bar with pool tables and people smoking cigarettes and shit. I didn't like that. I didn't like that idea. I've never been a fan of that, visualization of arm wrestling. I like the sports side. I wanted arm wrestling to be what football and basketball and baseball are, professional. And that's what the Arnold Classic represented to me, was a professional event.
Now, since you got out of the Arnold Classic, or not you got out of it, but we've seen you less there, I seem, from speaking to you, I seem to get that there was, in your mind, a bit of unfinished business. And that unfinished business seemed to be around validity. Legitimizing you, legitimizing your level. And you seemed very focused and driven on that, and that seemed to be heading in one direction. It was overseas, and it was to the WAF.
Yes.
Just talk to me about that a bit, mate. And for the people that don't know what your thoughts, feelings, aspirations are in relation to the World Arm Wrestling Federation and why, what led you down that path?
Honestly, I was extremely proud of the world titles that I won under the Arm Wars umbrella. And I felt like a world champion. I felt like an elite athlete. I felt like one of the best when I performed at Arm Wars and won. The rest of the world, the rest of the arm wrestling community, they didn't treat me like that. They didn't call me a world champion. They didn't identify me as the best of the best. They didn't give me the credit that I felt like I'd earned competing all across the world. I mean, I would literally have been all over the world with Arm Wars and competed against a lot of great arm wrestlers. And so it really hurt me that I wasn't being thought of as one of the best guys. And so everybody, in the community has basically come together and said, hey, if you win a WF world title, then you're a world champion. That's the consensus. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to do that. And my first chance at doing that was 2013. Again, you have to understand that at that point in time, I was 100% Arm Wars, 100% super match puller. I was not a tournament guy. I'd won some Arnold Classics, yes, but the competition, the level of competition through the entire class was nothing compared to that of the WAF. Every athlete that shows up at the WAF to represent their country is a phenomenal arm wrestler. Every one of them. They all are great. Everybody's good. And you've got to train a proper way to be really good in that type of situation. And when I went in 2013 to Poland, I was still training arm wars in the gym, arm wars on the table, stamina. I can make mistakes. I can pull off crazy moves out of nowhere. I can experiment up here. No, you can't fucking do any of those things at WAF, or you're going to get plowed to the pin pad. And I found that out pretty quickly at arm wars, and even at WF. And even you had advised me to go up there and fucking grip and rip as hard as you can to the side. Pin these motherfuckers. Yeah. And I didn't listen. I was so confident going into that WAF because of my success in arm wars. I was a little arrogant. I was a little too arrogant, and I got put through the ringer. I think physically I was capable of making the podium, both arms, but I was not mentally prepared for that level of competition and for the style of pullers that I was going against. Who want to kill you as fast as they can. Yeah,
almost like a different sport, isn't it?
I wanted to cut them up and bleed them out. I wanted to put on a show up there. You can't fucking do that at WF.
No.
So you get the experience there, and I remember when I lost my second match to Viraz in right-handed on day 2. We had a war. We had a war on a hook, and I ended up fouling out against him, and I knew I could have beat him. I'd lost to Ingen prior to that match, and I think I think a similar incident happened to me against Ingen that happened to me against Cobra the same year.
Yeah.
Is just this person that I feel is that I look up to and that I respect and that I have put on a pedestal. I wasn't ready for that mentally to go face someone. So Ingen ended up beating me, and then I ended up losing to Viraz from Armenia. So I had a pretty disappointing right-handed day. I think I placed like 21 or something like that. It was some shitty placing. And I knew that did not represent the level of arm wrestling and the ability that I have. And so to go home, after being recognized as the Arm Wars champ, to go home 21st place in WAF, it really fucking hurt. It really hurt, man, because I knew I was going to get a lot of backlash for it. Like, I told you you're not a world champion, those kinds of things, And so ever since then, I have wanted to win that world title. And unfortunately, I let other things get in the way of that. I let WAL get in the way of that. I've let other tournaments get in the way of that, other get in the way of that. And it's, last year, 2019, was the first time I got to go back and try again. And I came in more prepared this time. But, this is only my second time to pull this tournament.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I still was, compared to those guys that showed up that day, I was still inexperienced compared to them.
Yep.
I don't get to pull Europeans. I'm not a European country. I don't get to go to Europeans. The European athletes get to do 2 tournaments a year, WAF and EAF.
Yes.
That allow them to be a part of that environment and be a part of that level of every guy in the class is great kind of deal. You don't get to do that in the U.S. It's just not like that very often. So I struggled a little bit again 2019. I did pretty good left-handed. And honestly, I felt so mentally and physically exhausted after the first day that right-handed just did not go my way. I still felt like I was strong enough to beat some of those guys. I did not think it was a strength issue. I really didn't even feel like it was an arm wrestling issue. It was just an experience issue, really.
Now talk to me about you obviously made it. I mean, I know you're disappointed, mate. I know from speaking to you, you were gutted. But you got some love after that event, and you earned a great deal of respect.
Yeah, I did. That was nice. The European athletes prior to that event really did not give me a whole lot of credit. Some of them did. When I talked to Mendagas after the Arnold Classic, he told me that he was a fan of mine and that that I had inspired him and that he wanted to he looked up to me and wanted to beat me, wanted to fight me. And he told me that other guys in Europe wanted to do that too, and that was news to me because everything I'd seen is really, I'd never really seen any love from the European arm wrestlers. Really more like, this guy is just a loudmouth American kind of deal. But yeah, after the Worlds in 2019, I got a lot more respect. They appreciated my ability, and that was nice. It was really good feedback, and it was really nice to see that I had some love across the world still.
And you had some unbelievably entertaining and dramatic matches. I mean, your win against a Russian competitor that was drama. That was amazing, wasn't it? How did that feel?
It felt good. I mean, I knew I made some mistakes. I know that on left-handed day against the Russian athlete that I lost to, I ended up flash pinning him in the first go, and they said like he elbow fouled or something like that, and This is the thing about WAF. You have to come in there prepared to fight the athlete, prepared to defend yourself against the referee, and you better know the rules, and you better have the ability to step away from the match and go, hey, and challenge the situation. Mm-hmm. I didn't do that first match against the Russian. I flash pinned this guy, and I did not challenge anybody. I just said, okay, I'm going to beat this guy again. That's fine. I ended up letting off a little bit in that match. And thinking, okay, I beat him so easily, I can save some of my strength for the next match. I'm just going to hit straight back, control him, finish him easy sideways. Well, That's a fucking mistake. Again, I should not have even let my guard down for a second, and I did. He catches me in a hook. I'm in a bad position in the hook, and I didn't feel like I should. I just felt like I felt like I shouldn't waste any more energy. I'm in a really bad position. I'm going to fight this one. I ended up losing that match. I think had I won that match, you'd have seen me on the podium. Because next match, I ended up getting basically injured by the Lithuanian athlete. Belarus athlete.
Belarus, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he ended up pulling the King's move out on me, and my elbow ended up cracking a couple times in there. You can see in mid-match, I'm kind of in this hook. He kind of starts to King's move me, and I'm pushing sideways, and you see me kind of just pop up because I hear the crackle pop in my elbow. I'm thinking my arm broke. I'm like, whoa. But my arm stops in the center of the table again. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I can still pull. So I just pull through it. Well, I ended up injuring myself, and I had to fight hard to get the next win. And then I had to fight hard again after that, and I ended up getting smashed by by Talgut from Kazakhstan. I just didn't have anything. I should have hooked him. I knew I should have hooked him, but my elbow scared the fuck out of me. That I just thought I could try top roll and get away from this guy. I ended up getting flash pinned. It was a mistake. But I knew that day I was capable of making the podium, maybe even winning that event left-handed. I knew it. But I'll tell you this. After the day was over with, I was still happy with 5th place. I was still happy. I was still happy with what I accomplished. I was even happier with the respect that all the talk that the Europeans were giving me after that match. But I did not sleep 1 minute that night. I laid in bed tossing and turning all night because I knew how close I was to making the podium. I knew how close I was to reaching that goal of being a WAF champ. I knew I was on the fucking verge, that I could not let go of those moments. And I just sat in bed all night thinking about it. I couldn't go to sleep. And I was exhausted the next day. I was exhausted mentally and physically. I just couldn't let go of the chance that I had to be on that podium. And it affected me on right-handed day, unfortunately.
Now, you spoke about one of the legendary arm wrestlers that you faced at the World Arm Wrestling Federation, and I know what he means to you, and I know what kind of esteem you hold him in. Talk to me about Engin Terzi.
Yeah, Engin's definitely has always been an inspiration for me because I always tried to look for guys that I felt had similar builds to me that were champions. And I felt like I could be like Engin. That's what I felt like. I'm watching Engin arm wrestle. He doesn't have this massive hand. He doesn't have this super long forearm. He doesn't have this. He's not this gigantic person. But he's fast. He's explosive. And he's strong. And he's smart. And I thought, I've always thought that I have all of those aspects too. So why can't I be like Engin Terzi? And so he's always been an inspiration for me. I've always had a lot of respect for him. I think he's a great arm wrestler. And I've always wanted a chance to pull him again. And I remember even in the Arm Wars days, I really wanted to pull him. And I had met him for the first time in Spain, 2011 or 12, I think it was. 2012 maybe or something like that. Anyways, and it was the first time I got to meet him, and I got to kind of dribble with him off the table and talk, and I really liked him. He was super nice, and I felt like we both, shared this common bond for the love of arm wrestling. And so I've always liked Engin, and I've always wished to get to know him better. I've always wished to go train with him or have him come here and train with me. And then, of course, compete against him. So he's definitely been a big part of of my career.
And the other guy you had close, or up close and personal experience of at that particular event in 2019 was the legendary Svetanga Shevsky of Bulgaria, who is an all-time favourite of mine.
I love Svet. First of all, he's tremendous arm wrestler, obviously, and a wonderful person. I remember when I first when I was really getting competitive in arm wrestling, I had found that video, I think that Mazurenko had done of him showing all his training techniques and him working out in the gym and stuff. And I always thought that was an inspirational video, and I've always loved watching him arm wrestle. And so I got to meet him for the first time there in Romania, and he was super nice. I walked away from I took a loss to him in the tournament, and I did not feel bad at all losing to Svet. I actually walked away as happy as I would have been if I'd have won. I really enjoyed the moment with him on the table. He's someone that I always wanted to meet, someone I always wanted to pull. And even after the event, he came over to me and he gave me a shirt. He said, "This is a gift for you." And he gave me his competition shirt. And I thought, man, to me that was like, I don't know, I couldn't believe it. That this guy that I've looked up to as, an inspiration in arm wrestling is giving me a gift. And so, of course, I'm like, well, shit, here, take my shirt too, bro. I mean, I want to exchange the favor because I have a mad respect for Svetan and all the Bulgarian guys. I mean, the Bulgarian team should be an inspiration to everybody because every man on that team, every man and woman on that team they're phenomenal. They're
savages, aren't they?
And, honestly, I'm jealous. I'm jealous that they get to train with each other on a regular basis. They have such a high level team. All the teams are such high level, all national and world champions on those teams. It's crazy. Yeah. So, it would be a dream to go be a part of those organizations and to get to, hang out with those guys on a regular basis and learn from them too.
And to sort of bring us to the end of this particular part, mate, in the Deep Inside series with yourself, World Arm Wrestling Federation now, in terms of your priority list, where, or aspiration, where is it now? Is it still is it unfinished business? Is it something you got to do? It's the itch you got to scratch. Where is it? Because I don't mean to sort of put a dampener on it, but is it even achievable anymore? With the split, are we ever going to see that? Do you believe that the split is not as significant in the male side of the sport as it is in the female? Obviously, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, the WAF is probably number one on my list. I think it's the one thing that I have to have before I can leave the sport of arm wrestling and feel complete, feel happy. I really want that title. And I don't have to have 20 of them. I don't give a shit about that. I want one. That's all I want is one. I feel like if I had one title from WAF, then that solidifies everything else I've done in the past. That's for me personally. So it's still very, very important. I still think it's where the best of the best are competing still. The IFA has great athletes, but, until the Russians, the Kazakhstanis, the Georgians, those countries really represent the highest level in Europe. And they're in WAF. I'm going to WAF. That's what I'm doing. I mean, I want that title. And I'll tell you right now, if the WAF still happens this year, I know it hasn't been canceled yet. I don't know if I'll be allowed to travel there, but if it still happens and I have the freedom to travel, I'm going. And I'm planning on winning.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. Part 2 in the can of Deep Inside with Geoff Hale, the Haleraiser. Mate, thank you for your time again. It's not done yet, ladies and gents. We're 2 down. Michael Todd set the bar. I think we've got about 25 episodes with Mike. So we've got quite a lot of miles to run with this guy. But, ladies and gents, if this is your first time on the Supernatural Strength channel, please like, share, subscribe. Let everybody know about it. Get the tattoo. And we will be back with Geoff Hale very, very soon. Till that time, ladies and gents, take it easy, peeps.